Hi, I'm Robert, and this is the Manhattan Wood Project. A couple months ago, Inventables contacted me and asked if I was interested in trying one of their X-Carve CNCs. It only took me a few seconds to say, yes, absolutely! So I ordered their 1000 by 1000 millimeter machine. 1 square meter of surface area to work on. That's a lot of area. It took about 4 weeks to get to me, so I spent that time making this cart to hold the X-Carve and all the supplies and materials that I'll probably ever need for it. You can view the build video for that cart separately. I'll put a link right up here. After the X-Carve arrived, it took me about 16 hours over the course of about a week and a half to put it together. The instructions suggested it would take about 9 hours, but I did a lot of extra detail work that wasn't required, but made it look nicer, and it'll probably make it work a little bit better. Inventables asked me to put together a build video showing the pros and cons of the build process. I've got to admit, the fact that they want to know the negatives really impressed me. Now, if I added every clip where I was pleased with the design or some aspect of the X-Carve, that would easily triple the length of this video. It's awesome. But in order to keep it shorter, I'm going to give a quick summary of the pros first, and then I'll dig into the build. The build process is long and detailed, but so are the directions. There's a few things that may trip you up, but the company and the members on their forum are very knowledgeable and extremely helpful. Their CEO and engineers are extremely active in the forums, so you know the company is actively trying to engage its customers. The customer service is the best I've ever seen. My order was missing a couple parts, and they voluntarily overnighted them to me. No hassle, no dealing with 10 layers of management, just one email sent to their help desk, and the part was shipped out as soon as possible. Got here 48 hours later. Positive stories like this are extremely common in the forums and among Inventables customers. Now, the X-Carve seems to be extremely well designed. There's many custom modifications you can do, but the unmodified base model seems to be capable of a whole lot more than I thought it would be. Now, with that being said, the X-Carve is very easy to modify. You can replace a spindle with a hand router to get more power, faster work done. You can reinforce the axes like I did here in a different video to make metal work easier to prevent any potential sagging. You can make your own wasteboard, so you don't have to tear up the wasteboard that they send you if you order it. You can make almost any other changes you desire. Now, you can use nearly any computer-aided design and machine code writing program with the X-Carve, but there's a free online program that they've designed and released. It's called Easel. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use, and is constantly being upgraded. They just added 2 little sub-applications to it. One of them is a little gear generator. You can tell it how many teeth you want and how big you want it, and it'll design the gear for you. And then all you do is tell it to carve, and it'll carve it. That's pretty awesome. Now, the forum members are there for you during the build, but they're also there if you get stuck in Easel or in any of the many other programs that are out there, like Chili Pepper, Universal G-Code Sender, V-Carve. Programs that I've seen the names and that's it. I have no idea about them, but I know that I'll be able to get some help if I need it. Now, overall, I think the X-Carve is a very well-designed machine that's extremely versatile. It's well worth putting on your list of possibilities if you're in the market for a hobby-sized CNC machine. It's not going to crank out $8,000 worth of merchandise in one day, but making stuff for fun, making stuff for a small business, this is your toy. Now, I'm making a follow-up video that details some of the assembly techniques that I use that may be helpful. Some places that the instructions didn't necessarily cover how to do, or where I found what I think is a better idea to do something. If you're building your CNC, or you just want to learn about some alternative construction methods and want to see what I did, then you can click up here on this link. Now on to the build. I divided this next section up into individual steps and gave a couple of different grades. You can skip directly to them in the next 10 seconds if you're watching this on YouTube, or you can watch them all in a row. I highly recommend the second option. Now, this seems very well protected. I think you would have to try to hurt it, so I'm happy with that. Nice big thick styrofoam encasing around the top. A little bit of damage to the corner, but not really too worried about that. I can always glue and clamp that back together. The rest of it looks like it's in good condition. Here's a quick look at how I plan to fix this corner. I'm gonna squeeze a little bit of glue in to the crack there. And then, just using a clamp, squeeze her down. Looks like there's a lot of bubble wrap in here. A power cord, more bubble wrap. Very well packed. So let's do an unpacking on the actual X-Carve bubble wrap. Dang, this thing is very well packed. And look at that. Packed nice and tight, but everything seems to be labeled. And you got stepper motors, core components, spindle, motion controller, power supply, drag chain, tools, visual calipers, limit switches, clamp set. I'm a physical kind of guy. I like to have something that I can flip through, especially a manual. So I went it through, printed out the instructions, single-sided with 2 pages of instructions on each page here. And you can see there is a lot of guidance on how to put this together. I love it. The more instructions the better, the easier it is to not screw this up. In addition to having these directions on the Inventables website, they also have some video directions, which I'm going to be watching on my little tablet, but you could watch it on a desktop, laptop, doesn't matter. I really like the amount of instruction and guidance that they put into this. I've been doing some forums talking at Inventables.com and picked up a few supplies to make some modifications or to make this assembly a little bit easier. While I was attaching the chocolate block, this terminal strip, to the back of the X carriage, I had a hard time getting the bolts lined up. It seems the spacing for the bolt holes is about 1 to 2 millimeters farther apart than these bolts. So I was able to get it in there by starting one, getting the other one kind of wiggled over and starting it, getting it down. But it kind of stretched it a little bit. I'm not too worried about it because it's only plastic that is stretched, which this plastic has a lot of give, but it didn't affect the terminals any. Instructions don't necessarily match the names on the bags, so you can always look at the SKU number, match them up, but looking for a roller actuator versus a switch lever, a little bit difficult to find them, so I'm having to rely more on the SKU number than the name. Well, I was going to put the stepper motor onto the X carriage and onto the Y plates. I noticed I was missing a part, the little pulleys that go on the end of them. Well, I sent an email to help@inventables.com and told them that I was missing 3 pulleys for my stepper motors. And 48 hours later, this is at the house. Actually, it's probably closer to 36 hours. I'm not sure when it got here because I just found it on the dining room table. The customer service there at Inventables is awesome. They took care of this in like 36 hours. I said to grab 2 pieces of maker slide to use for the gantry, for the X axis, and to grab the one that had the sticker on it. Well, I'm pretty sure this is the sticker they're talking about, so I'm going to have to figure out where to put that on this after I'm done. I'm mounting limit switches, and I've noticed that the screws on the limit switches are Phillips head, but the only little jeweler screwdrivers that were provided are 2 flathead screwdrivers. So fortunately I have a little bitty Phillips jeweler screwdriver that I can use, but it may not hurt Inventables to actually add a little bitty Phillips head jeweler screwdriver to kits that have a limit switch. So I sent a message Saturday night to Inventables saying that I was missing 2 bolts and that one of the wrenches was the wrong size. Tuesday, here it is. It was shipped overnight yesterday, which works just fine for me. So there's a video that addresses how to attach the M8 spindle rod, but there's not one that attaches how to attach the Acme spindle rod. I'm going to pretty much assume that it's the same. You have your Delrin nut, you need to run it up and down your threaded rod a couple times just to kind of break it in. And now while I'm holding these set screws, I can tighten down the lock nut on top. So there does not seem to be a very good way to do this. Maybe a little grip can be added somewhere. One of the problems that's been mentioned a few times is that the stepper wire is just long enough to get from where you need it. There's no slack, and if you cut it wrong, you're pretty much screwed until you get more wire. Let's talk limit switch wiring. So the wire that they give you is unshielded, double wire, but kind of put together like this. A lot of people in the forums are talking about how having the limit switch wiring going so near the spindle and maybe even near the stepper motors, sometimes there's enough electromagnetic field or something apparently to cause it to sometimes trip the limit switches, even though there's not actually something touching it. When you're wiring up your limit switches, you want to pay very, very close attention to the directions. They say to wire the white wire to the middle connection marked NO for normally open, and the black wire to the connection closest to the lever marked C for common. That's all well and good until you try and use one of their pictures as a reference and realize that one switch is hooked up that way while another one isn't. What you need to do is just find where it says NO and C, no matter where they are on the switch, and don't assume the picture will show you how to wire it correctly. Went through, did a quick count just to see how many threaded inserts there really were, since it says there's supposed to be 144. And unless I'm wrong, I think there's 184, which is awesome. That means that I can make maybe a little wasteboard to go on top of this for small stuff and have extra threaded inserts for that. That's awesome. Thank you very much, guys. Having those extra inserts is going to be wonderful. Important note, the drag chain on the Y side is supposed to go under, not over. So that means I need to take this off at this joint, flip it all over, and then try and connect it. So it's not going to be a problem, but the instructions did not say that it goes under. It just said run the wires through and connect it to the bracket. There's something else that would be nice if a little more clarity was provided. Left and right seem to depend on which side you're facing. It's not a universal left-right, it's more of a, if I'm looking at it from the back, this is left, this is right. Looking at it from the front, this is left, this is right. Maybe a little more clarity, so this is always the left side, or this is always the right side, or left side as viewed, or something like that. Soldering the pins onto the Arduino is a fun experience. You get 40 pins, but it turns out that you only need 8. Pay close attention to the pictures on the website so you don't waste time soldering on the pins that aren't necessary. It was unclear in the directions where some of the wires were supposed to connect. I'll try and clarify that right here. The wires that go in the connector for the pins you soldered are, from left to right, blank, white X limit switch, white Y limit switch, yellow spindle logic, white Z limit switch, blank, black spindle logic, and blank. You'll notice I did not say anything about the black limit switch wires. Those get crammed into the big green ground connection marked G and E for ground, along with the black fan and spindle power wires. The big green box also has a connection marked V-mote, which gets the red fan and red spindle power wires. Now if you do like me and connect the fan with the sticker facing up, you may be doing it wrong. The fan is supposed to blow air into the enclosure, and on my fan the sticker was on the outside of the fan. I had to flip it over, which was easy enough to do. I just wish that there was an airflow direction on it. I single, double, and triple checked it. Now let's see. It makes noise. See the blue light. And the spindle spins! It's alive! Now I'm going to test and see if all my motors are wired correctly. So X should go to the left. Yes! It goes! So let's go and start the homing sequence. Homing sequence first. Homing sequence is done. Now it says it's ready to do a test carve. I was going to wait until tomorrow, but this is just too exciting. So let's do a test carve. On my test carve, I got an error that the bit I used was too large for the design, even though the test carving and bits selected were preset by default. I decided to push forward as it was, just to see what would happen. What happened was that the program couldn't finish the small letters E and R because the bit would have crossed boundary lines that weren't supposed to be crossed. No harm, no foul. It was just interesting to learn just how the program would deal with that. So I've had the chance to do a couple of test carvings since I put this thing together, and I have to admit, this thing is just amazing. It looks sharp, it cuts great, and it's easy to work with. In case you couldn't tell, I'm very happy with it, and I'm looking forward to a lot of fun projects in the future. I want to say thank you to the folks at Inventables for giving me the opportunity to put this together and use it. There were no big problems, no super frustrating sections, just mainly areas where they can have a little bit of improvement in their documentation. Nothing was so difficult that the average person couldn't put this together and use it, especially with the forum members being as awesome as they are. Now it's time for me to do a little extra fine calibration with this big toy, so I'm going to go play with it for the rest of the evening. Please don't forget to share, comment, and thumbs up this video, and please subscribe to Manhattan Wood Project on YouTube if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next project. If you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you really liked it, or if you like my channel, please consider subscribing. You can hit the big subscribe channel below or hit my little logo up here. Also, please consider subscribing to my upcycling channel, Round Trip Upcycling. You just click on the logo right up here. More end mills, the starter set. Man, that is a little bitty one in there. If I don't snap that first try, that's going to make some nice, neat little carvings.